Welcome back to the Scion Esports, the Founders Podcast. I'm so excited about this episode. It's going to make it extra difficult to do my one assignment from Eric, which was talk quieter. Eric told me your mic will sound great if you just talk quieter, so I'm going to try to talk quieter on this episode. But I'm really excited about this episode of the Founders Podcast. This week, we're going to talk about Halo, like basically the whole entire show. And we're going to have a little bit of variety and kind of mix it in with the topics we've been talking about. But we're here to talk about Halo tonight. And we didn't even know. We've known Scooter for a couple years or whatever. We didn't know until just a few weeks ago that he was a Halo fanatic. So that's when we have him here. So we're going to introduce. I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'm going to let you, Scooter, introduce yourself. Here you are in our party. You'll notice in our party screen that you don't have a Discord, which means you're not in our Discord. We'll talk about that later. You should definitely be on our Discord. I made you a bard on our party because your history with us is mostly music related. So, but yeah, tell us who you are.
I'm Scooter Michelli. I've, like you're saying, mostly music related. Scion Esports events with music. I'm, behind the scene, usually running monitors for the bands and making sure that they get to hear what they need to hear, and it's a heck of an experience for sure.
So I want to open with a slight modification of one of our segments, which usually is reliving the 90s. This time it is reliving the 2000s.
Which is fantastic because I was not alive for most
Scooter
of the 90s.
Scooter wasn't alive for most of the 90s. And a lot of people don't realize it doesn't feel like it. But Halo came out in 2001. Like it was a killer app for the Xbox, and so launched in 2001. So we have some super sweet retro themed Halo music. I pulled this from, I don't know if y'all know this or not, but in Halo Infinite, in one of the multiplayer maps, I think it's Streets, there's like a little kind of bar and there's an arcade game, and it's playing classic as if there was a Halo arcade. So we're going to take it back and start by talking about Halo, kind of the beginning of Halo. So I want y'all to kind of start us off with your first Halo memory. Like when do you remember Halo the first time? And then we'll talk about when did Halo become something really special to you. So Eric, you want to take it first?
So my first Halo memory is we didn't have an Xbox when Halo came out. I mean, we had video games. I think we didn't have an Xbox, but our cousin Ike had an Xbox.
Yep.
And I remember him playing Halo and just being like, guys, this is different. This game is different. It's special. There's something special about this game. Just right from the get-go, Halo 1, I remember our cousin telling us, this game is special. There's something different about it. It's a better game than other games. It's not like other games. You got to play it.
Yeah,
and we didn't play Halo 1 a whole lot, but that's my first Halo memory. And then we picked up Halo 2 and played the heck out of Halo 2. But that's
we
my
talked
first
last
Halo
week
1
about because our lives are basically identical. What if our formative memories were the same? And that's exactly how I remember that. So Scooter, when do you remember your first Halo experience?
Halo 2, because Halo 1, I was 2 when that game came out.
Right.
Oh yeah, youngster.
And then also, I don't think we had an Xbox at that point either. It wasn't until later on. But I remember being a very small child and my brothers were playing Halo. And mom wasn't wild about me watching the violence, so I was still little. But then still being a little kid trying to play Halo with my brothers, and it was, an adventure.
I love that you're bringing that in because I have a 6-year-old right now, and I'm trying to decide when is appropriate to let him watch me play Halo. He's too young to play it, but
6
he plays
is not the answer.
Eric thinks 6 is not the answer. I think 6 is probably
I also
a little
have
young.
6-year-olds.
It's probably a little young.
We
but
have multiple 6-year-olds.
Yeah. But I want to. So how old were you when you were 2 when Halo CE came out? How old were you? You would have been, I guess, maybe 5 when Halo 2 came out.
Right. So it was probably about that time, and Mom ended up being pretty okay with it because you were killing aliens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it wasn't people, so she didn't really mind. Yeah. It was before my oldest brother joined the Marine Corps, so it was pre-2007. So I was probably somewhere between 6 and 8 years old.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's getting pretty soon. Eric's like, no, probably not yet, but we're working on that. So I'm kind of the same way as Eric, which is my first Halo memory is not what I would call a core memory. What movie is that from? Is that from what's the movie where it's inside the girl's brain and it's all the personalities? Inside Out. Yeah. So core memory.
I don't have that one.
Yeah, you didn't watch that one?
Didn't watch that one.
So Scooter, since you were familiar with Inside Out and you know what core memories are, tell me about your core Halo memories that made it be like, I love this game, I love this franchise. I'm gonna when the Tarvers do a question and answer at SciFiCon, I'm gonna ask them a bunch of questions about Halo. When did you realize Halo is my game?
Well, there's the I'm the youngest of the family, so my older brothers were into it, so there was that aspect of, well, that's what my brother's like, that's got to be cool.
Yeah.
But then growing into it of like, oh my goodness, this is actually a game that I enjoy. But I would say it was less the storyline to begin with, but the going head to head with my brothers, because I have a brother that's 13 months older than I am, and we were, neck and neck. Obviously not twins, but pretty close. And so as far as our skill level in the game, we were pretty head to head. And going against our older brother CJ, we would end up tag teaming against him, because then we had some hope. And it was I loved the aspect of going head to head with my brothers in the game, and then that progressed into playing the game otherwise.
So you're now that you know what core memories are, Eric, what are your Halo core memories? What's your Halo core memories? What established Halo as your killer franchise?
Well, so to me, it was reading the Eric Nyland novels probably after Halo 2, but before Halo 3. I think they came out well before that, but I remember picking up back when we used to read books, paper books. I don't read paper books anymore, but some people still do. So reading The Fall of Reach that's one of my core memories. That's what solidified Halo to me as better than everything else. Halo 2 was very fun. We played it a lot. We played it with our buddies. We set up TVs in the same room. We had sort of small LAN parties, but consuming the other media and it being so exceptional also, I think, is what early on. Now, that was not like I was married. I was just married. So this would be like 2010. Yeah. That memory is like probably from 2010. So whatever Halo was out around then, that was probably around Halo 3 time. And then just the Halo music, man. It's just like the music from Halo 2 on. Halo 1 had some of the classic movie music, but the Halo 2 soundtrack is where it's just really just bangers nonstop.
It's solid, just banger after banger after
Halo
banger.
2 and Halo 3, and like any scene, and especially in Halo 3, that have the brutes and you have all those drums, like it makes you feel so involved in the game, and it gets your emotions going. And the music. And
the Halo themes is probably one of the most recognizable, not just video game, musics, but the Halo intro with the monks is just unbelievably recognizable. And I
think you'd be hard pressed to be under 50 and not know what that is.
Not know what that is.
I don't know that our parents know what it is, but
it's recognizable by them.
Our girlfriends definitely do. Our wives. Not girlfriends now because we're grown men, but our wives definitely do. What I meant to say was everyone's girlfriend knows that music. I'm sure. Just it's that famous.
Yeah. That I think talking about core memories. I'm kind of like you, which is like a little bit later. Looking back, it was a little bit later when I realized, wow, this is an amazing, not just game, but world franchise. Like it's a whole sci-fi franchise, and that's when it's really like, wow, I can really sink my teeth into this, and I have sunk my teeth into it, or it sunk its teeth into me one of the other ways. And I think thinking about Halo 2, like I remember playing Halo 2 on Legendary, memorizing where all the different guys were, and trying to get through it on Legendary, and then on Halo 3 also I remember doing that, but I don't really. But I remember after Halo 3, during the wait for Halo 4, is when you told me, like, you have to read this book. Like, we were just talking about, can't wait for the game to come out. We're like, have you read these books? And I was like, no, I haven't read any of them. By that time, there was 8 books out or whatever, because there was the Fall of Reach and the novelization of CE, which was called The Flood, I think. Mm-hmm. And then Ghosts of Onyx was already out, and then the 3 Forerunner books. And so I just started consuming those and then realizing, man, this is I love not just the game, but the franchise. Almost to the point, that's where I realized, like, I even love the franchise more than I love the games. Like, I don't even have to be playing them. I just want to be involved with the world. So, yeah. So I think, okay, so quick favorite track. Do you have like a favorite music track? Like we were talking about the music earlier, going back to that. Do you have just kind of, you remember, and a lot of people don't know the titles of them, but.
See, and I'm horrible at remembering the way that it goes, but Drum Run is such an incredible track.
So for me, it's the one called Truth and Reconciliation Suite, because it has the whole, it has some of the chanting, and then it has some of the I think it may even have some of the piano that, and it's got all the Truth and Reconciliation suite.
It's
takes you through the whole thing.
Yeah, that's.
And then in Amberclad Amberclad's a real driving drum beat one that's really good. That's probably Amberclad's probably one that, like you were talking about, like with the Brute, the drum beats. That's probably one of those.
Yeah, it's got really driven. I love in Amberclad. We'll talk about it later on. I have a few little things that if I have time, we're going to sneak them in. And so you're going to be thinking about one of the things that I'm going to sneak in later, kind of like this. Your favorite track is favorite ship names, because like the UNSC have, and even the Covenant ships have such cool names. But in Amberclad, it's just like such a cool name. Like and then they have a song named that, which is obviously because of that. But then they changed the name of that song. This irritates me. I don't know if I have a complaint about this. In the Master Chief collection, well, no, H2A. And H2A, on the H2A soundtrack, they changed the name of that song to Trapped in Amber, which is like, it's the same song. It's still awesome, cool. But it's not nearly as cool. My favorite track is called Moon Over Mombasa. And
that's a good one too.
My pitch is terrible. I would embarrass my wife if I started trying to sing a song, hum the song, but Moon Over Mombasa is like my favorite track. So moving on our rundown here, and I haven't been doing a very good job of switching these cameras up. You viewers that are watching are probably getting bored, but it says lore part 1. So what I want to do, I want to dig into the lore a little bit, and I want to pick up on a question that Scooter actually asked us that we didn't get to finish answering at Sci-Fi-Con, which was, you asked, what do you think about the Gravemind as a villain? Like, what do you think about the Gravemind? And we kind of started off by saying, well, what do you mean? In the games or in the books or both or all? And I don't remember exactly why, but we didn't get the chance to really dig into that. So I think I want to talk about the Gravemind, and then also just like the bad guys of Halo. And so let's talk about that for a minute. So Scooter, you want to start it off, or Eric, you want to start it off?
I remember what we left off with at Sci-Fi-Con was that the Gravemind in only the games is kind of like whatever the opposite of Deus Ex Machina is, where it's just a villain that's just there to be a villain. I don't know what you call that literary, but it doesn't. It's just there at the end, comes out of nowhere, and is this villain that comes out of nowhere. But if you consume all the content, there's a lot more depth that goes into the Flood and the history and the Gravemind, and so there's all this backstory that you only get if you read the books. But if you're talking about the whole franchise, the Gravemind is a tremendous villain.
Yeah.
And so I'm a yes on the Gravemind as a villain.
And the cool thing is that if you start playing Halo CE right off the bat, the Covenant's a bad guy. It's clear what this whole story is going to be about, and it's going to be about fighting these aliens called the Covenant. And then 40% of the way through the game, you introduce this other alien that you didn't even really know was going to be there, and then that develops into they're not just these monsters. They have this compound intelligence, and I think the Gravemind's evolution as a villain is great. And then I think
there's something about like compound intelligence villains. Like the Borg is the same way. So the Borg from Star Trek, it's just I think it's just a natural thing that people are uncomfortable with and scary. It's a naturally scary thing. Compound intelligences. I think there was a little bit of, not in the villain, but wasn't there something about that in like Avatar? Wasn't the planet like alive?
Yeah, like the planet was sentient or something.
And but the Borg the Flood is a lot like the Borg. They're just like a completely biological version of the Borg, and that sort of hive mind mentality is in a lot of different media, and it's always scary and uncomfortable, and people it makes for good villains.
Guster, Posey, and Rin Spider and are in here already talking about their.
I don't understand why it doesn't update on.
You can't see the
Are they in
chat.
Founders Podcast?
Oh, they're in the Twitch chat. They're in Twitch chat.
Okay.
They're dropping on. They're just already hitting on the ship names that are just the coolest ship names. So we'll talk about those in a minute. So Scooter, you asked us that question for a reason. So what are your thoughts on the Gravemind?
I love the long span of the Gravemind, and the purpose of the Halos and how it all ties together and continues to build. And I like that aspect, and the zombie-esque aspect of the Flood, and just making it a great villain of just expendable
Yeah. They're zombies, but they're not just mindless zombies.
Right.
They're a purpose. Let me ask you this, Scooter.
But they're a flood of enemies. The Zerg is the same way in StarCraft. It's a flood of monsters or zombies, whether it's zombies like World War Z or whatever, but it kind of combines like the Borg and zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. What, Scooter, did you read any, or are you just a gamer?
I have not read any.
Okay. So your experience with the Gravemind is game specific.
When you leave this podcast,
I need to read the books now.
Start with Halo: The Fall of Reach.
Halo: The Fall of Reach.
Eric Nyland, Halo: The Fall of Reach. Wouldn't you say?
Fall of Reach is really
without
good.
A doubt,
Ghost of Onyx is really good also.
Without a doubt, start with
really
Halo:
good.
The Fall of Reach. And then Ghost of Onyx probably after that, maybe. But
yeah.
And then if you like those, you can go read the Greg Bear ones that are the Forerunner ones that are the millions of years BC or whatever one.
Yeah. And those are the ones. Well, man, these cameras. These are really. I really got to work on these. But the. I don't know if there's anything I can do. But I'm just saying I'm taking responsibility for it because I'm a video guy. But the Greg Bear novels really tell the story of the Forerunners and their relationship with the Precursors and who the Gravemind, the intelligence that becomes the Gravemind. His first 10 million years of his life is all kind of laid out in the Forerunner novels. And so that's another thing that's cool about the Gravemind is he's just so patiently waiting, for his opportunity to basically destroy the whole galaxy, ultimately to punish the Forerunners by eliminating basically all life in the galaxy, consuming all life in the galaxy. And so that's a pretty all-encompassing villain. Destroy the universe is kind of like usually not that great of a villain.
Right.
If it's his only plan is destroy the universe, but the Gravemind is really well.
Well, it's
really
like
well
consume the universe.
Consume the universe
with the flood.
They talk about in one of those books. They talk about the flood's goal is not necessarily to kill all life in the galaxy. It's to eliminate all biodiversity in the galaxy. Like their goal is for there to be only one life form.
Flood.
Just flood.
Flood the whole entire galaxy. No ants, no people, no nothing. Just flood in the whole entire galaxy. So it's just they're pretty interesting bad guys. So other villains. Thoughts?
So villain turned hero. I love the arc of the Sangheili, and in Halo 2 when I don't remember the entire speech, but it's that I think it's on the Arbiter's ship, and they're going through that mantra, and even to our dying breath, like that. The honor and the structure of the elites, and then whenever that everything goes wrong, and then the brutes end up the big guys in the Covenant, and then the Sangheili end up siding with the UNSC. I love that aspect of the villain turn hero. I always love that.
The Sangheili and the Jiralhanae both are really, 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 really well developed alien races that are your adversaries at some point. But then, especially in the expanded media, you're just as likely to flip around and kind of see through the eyes of an elite or a brute. And they're very well developed. The brute chieftains later on. I guess if you played, did you play all the way through Infinite? Like, do you know about Atriox and know about Escharum and no? Okay.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Scooter?
I know.
The Infinite's not the best from a plot standpoint. There's not a lot of plot there, really.
There's not, but they do flesh out in Halo Wars 2.
Halo Wars and
Infinite.
They
flesh out a lot of backstory with the brutes and a lot of personality that really digs deep into those guys, and it's a lot of fun. I think
Sangheili are basically like Klingons from Star Trek. I guess I'm kind of relating everything. Are you big on Star Trek?
I'm not.
Okay, so Sangheili are basically like Klingons. They're
warlike.
So they're warlike but honorable, and really in the whole Halo thing, it's kind of not obvious, but generally expected that they're going to wind up good guys.
Yeah.
When the Covenant falls apart. That's very natural progression because they're an honorable race in general.
Yeah. I think the prophets are kind of, you don't really get to know them that well, but I would say like my favorite villain that could have been and wasn't is, you're not going to, Scooter, I can't talk to you about this if you haven't played the later games, but I feel like Cortana, her descent into rampancy in Halo 4 and Halo 5, and eventually becoming the main villain in Halo 5. The first three games, the Bungie games, and Reach, really the first Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST, and Halo Reach all were about the Covenant War, and more specifically just the Battle of Earth. And like they told that story, and then they were done with that story. And then when 343 took the games over, they kind of started telling the story of two things, kind of the passing of the mantle from the Forerunners to the humans. So the humans kind of taking on the ability to activate Forerunner structures and learn more about the history, their relationship with the Forerunners. And then the second one is the second part of the kind of the A plot, B plot that 343 took on was Cortana and her descendants into rampancy, and then her ultimate ascendance to be the head of the created and the main bad guy of the whole franchise. And it's like, you've been developing this bad guy, this one, you've been developing her for 20 plus years. And I just thought, man, this could go somewhere really great. And then in Halo Infinite, they're like, oh yeah, well, remember that bad guy we created? We just killed her off screen. Now we're starting the new game after she's dead. And so I think my favorite villain is like the villain that could have been.
That's horrible. Because I knew that
Cortana's gone in Halo Infinite.
Right, I knew
and
that.
The Infinite picks up and Cortana's gone. And it's like, okay.
That's horrible.
You need to go ahead and get it on the podcast so it's documented for posterity. They need to go. We talked about earlier. We're documenting this for when it actually happens. We can say it was here first.
You heard it here first on Scion
Esports Founders Podcast. They need to have so Halo Infinite is a very open world. You just get dropped on this destroyed Halo and it's all open world like The Witcher or something like that.
That's cool.
What they need to do is they need to have a Halo 6 and it needs to not be open world. It needs to be just like Halo 4 and Halo 5, linear, play through the missions, and have it pick up right after Halo 5.
Ooh.
Call it Halo 6. And then after that, they need to have Halo Infinite 2 and have that pick up after Halo Infinite.
And it can be open world.
And Halo 6 can fill in when Cortana was being the main villain. You could play against Cortana or whatever and then fill in there. And then Halo Infinite 2 can be back to open world on that. What Halo are they on?
Zeta Halo.
Zeta Halo. So then you can be Halo Infinite 2.
I kind of, it's almost like 343.
Now it's documented. So when it happens, you heard it first.
Halo 6 comes out and goes back right after Halo 5, pick up with Cortana as the villain and live in that world. Let us go live in that world where everybody's living in fear of a Guardian coming and EMP shockwaving their whole planet, and show us how humanity overcomes that. That's what we want to see. We want to see that in a game. It could be like a 6-hour campaign. It could be like a Call of Duty campaign. It could be like a short one. Tell us a little story in that world where Cortana's the bad guy, and let us give her the end that she deserves, as a villain. So yeah, you heard it here first. I kind of think 343 was. It's almost like they were a little bit too scared to do that. I talked about this in that last podcast I was on about when Halo 4 came out. They had a story to tell. They told that story. It was a great game. Multiplayer wasn't all that well received because of the armor, the armor abilities and the classes and the sandbox didn't feel right. It didn't feel like Halo, and so multiplayer wasn't really that well received. And also, a lot of the casual fans weren't willing to kind of invest in a story to flesh out, to read the books and watch Forward Unto Dawn. Did you watch Forward Unto Dawn, Scooter?
I didn't even watch Forward.
You didn't watch Forward Unto Dawn? Okay, it's really, really good. It's really good Halo.
The first episode, but it was a long time ago when it came out.
Yeah, they released it in like 5 parts, and then they released it as a Blu-ray. Like it came, like if you bought the Halo 4 Legendary Edition or whatever, you got the whole show. But I think they kind of weren't really. They maybe overestimated the general casual fandom's willingness to engage in all that. And then the game kind of, the multiplayer kind of died down. It wasn't a huge success. And so the same thing kind of happened with Halo 5. And it kind of seems like 343 kind of fell victim to the casual fans don't love the game. And so we're telling the wrong story, but it's really like the casual fans don't like the game that much. So the multiplayer needs to be better and it needs to be more engaging. It needs to be more multiplayer content to keep the casual fans engaged. But if they would have stayed true to kind of the story they were telling, I think the Halo 6 we're talking about them making, it could be a great game if they stay true to that story and stay true to the 2 story arcs they were telling, which is the Forerunner legacy and Cortana's descent and ascent. If they go back and give us a little bit of game in that window, it'll be great. And then they can still go back and pick up with the Zalanin or whatever the Endless in Halo Infinite, and that can be an open world series, and they can do great things. So. That gets us to kind of the end of lore part 1, and then the next thing is announcement. So this is probably going to be like me talking a little bit, but I just want to very briefly note before we go to our break about a partnership that we have established, which is with a group called Jumperscape Media. There's some podcasters that I found that do a show called The Library that's a Halo Lorecast, but they have a side project that is taking the lore drops and the little nuggets of canon story that go on Halo Waypoint, mission logs and things like that are going up on Halo Waypoint from the Halo creative team officially in text form on Halo Waypoint. They've been doing it for several years since kind of the lead up to Infinite. And what Jumperscape is doing is they're taking those text documents and turning them into really, really, really high quality audio dramas that are straight off of, basically canon storytelling. And they're doing these audio dramas that are really, really good. They have great voice acting, great scoring, and great sound effects. So we're excited to be a partner with them. You can find them on ScionEsports.com. There's a section called Partnerships. And if you go there, you can find Jumperscape. Or anywhere you find your podcasts, you can find Stories from Waypoint. It's a partnership that we're really excited to be involved in. And
I don't
really
even like
cool.
audio dramas, but it is. I've only listened to one. The one that I listened to was exceptional, and I don't even like audio dramas.
Yeah,
it was exceptional.
Yeah, so definitely check that out if you like Halo lore. If you like deep cuts, go check it out. Jumperscape.com is their website, and also you can find it by just looking anywhere where you get your podcasts. You can find these audio dramas. It's called Stories from Waypoint. It's really awesome. I think let's go ahead and take a break. And then we're going to get our special guest in, who you saw a little brief shot of earlier, which is Aero. He's going to hop in. We're going to talk about esports a little bit. We're going to talk about our own Halo team. Aero's going to give us a little update on our own Halo team because he's been keeping up with it better than we have. We'll be back right after this. All right, we are back on the Scion Esports, the Founders Web podcast here. We have a special guest that's going to be joining us, and let's see if I can get this to work here.
Yep, hello.
To help us test bringing in a remote guest on our podcast, which he did very successfully. Great job, Aero. The second reason he's here, which we're going to do second, is to talk to us, just to kind of reminisce with us about Scion Esports' relationship with Halo, which he is a big part of. But first, he's going to give us a debriefing of what our Halo team has been up to the last couple of months, because we started with Halo in like 2015 or 2016. There may or may not be some trivia questions about that back in the Halo 5 era, and then we got out of it for a while. And we have a really good question from Ren Spider also actually about Halo Esports. So Aero, since you've been keeping up with Ben, the coach, tell us a little bit about what they've been up to the last few months.
So, just from the little bit that I've talked about it, it seems like you guys have you've had 5 tournaments so far this year. I know you guys have been scrimming immensely, like once, maybe twice a week, and then the weekends just full with tournaments. But so there's been one LAN tournament for the year, and Scion topped 12 at the event. And then there's been 4 online qualifiers leading up into the big HCS events. So Scion top 16 back-to-back for the online qualifiers leading into London. And then they did top 12 leading into Atlanta. So you guys will be going to London in order to play. And then in June, and then in July, you guys will be going to Atlanta. And from what Ben has said about the roster of players, like you said, extremely passionate, extreme love for the game, really good player, some of the best he's played with in a while, and that's been for a long time for him. One
of the cool things about this team, and we of course met Ben. Ben played on one of the teams at our Halo tournament, so we've met him in real life. But the rest of these guys are kind of from all over. But there's twins actually on the team. Yuzi and Zuzi are cool. Twin brothers that play Halo, and they're significantly younger than us, so they're kind of like the new generation of Halo. But it's cool being a twin. Eric, who had to go take a phone call, I guess he's coming back in a minute, but obviously we're twins. And so it's just been cool that we kind of stumbled upon this team that happens to have a set of twin brothers playing on it. Might be some questions in the trivia section later also about other famous twins that play Halo. We'll talk about that later. But I wanted to talk just kind of reminisce for a minute about the good old days of Scion Esports and what Halo has kind of meant to us. And I really wish Eric was here, but Aero is going to do great. We obviously started Halo in 2014. 2014 when Halo 4 came out, and we've done Halo 4 and Halo 5 at a lot of events since then. But the kind of crown jewel was in 2022 when we did our Halo Infinite 10th anniversary celebration. It was Halo's 20th anniversary, our 10th anniversary. It was just a really great event. So if you don't mind, Aero, I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you mind taking about 2 minutes and just telling us what that was like from your perspective? Like, how did you find out about the event? How did you end up, coming and getting involved? What did you think about this car dealership doing this giant Halo tournament? Just tell us a little bit about like what that was like from somebody who that was your because that was your first experience with Scion Esports, right?
Yeah, that was my first time with you guys.
Tell us about it.
It was really interesting. I was sitting at work in my office, and then a buddy of mine that you guys had brought on, he messaged me randomly like, "Do you still TO for esports?" And I was like, "Yeah, all the time. Why?" And he was like, "Come, do you want to come to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and play TO a Halo tournament?" I was like, "Sure. I mean, why not? I guess." I was like, "Tell me a little bit about them." And they're like, "Well, it's sponsored by a car dealership." And I was like, "Oh, cool. They got a sponsor." They're like, no. It's the car dealership running the event." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds kind of interesting. That sounds funny. How many players?" And at the time, they told me like, 16 players. And I was like, I don't think they need to fly me from Chicago to run 16-player event, but I'll do it. It sounds like a lot of fun, so sure. And then, yeah, y'all flew me in. And when we got to the venue, that I was thoroughly just impressed as soon as I walked into the building. I was like, that's the real deal right there. I just remember the big panel for the monitors. There was like maybe 20 huge monitors that was just set up for the spectators that were there to watch, and the back room that you guys brought Rin Spider in to do the cameras and toggling.
Yeah.
And
Ren's here in the chat with us, actually. Ren's representing us in the Twitch chat.
Yeah, but that was a pool TO at the time, so I was just kind of showing my face for the first time and running pools and setting up all the computers with Sam and everyone. And then day 2, you guys brought me onto the stage to actually just run whatever games were going on the stage. And I think one of my favorite memories that I had was actually one of the final stage game. We were having audio issues the entire time. Yep. And I ended up making the call, and I was like, "All right, we're gonna play old school. Everyone take off your headsets, and if you need to talk to your people, you're just gonna scream at each other." Yep. And a lot of the players on the stage, they thought they were kind of upset, but at the same time, it was kind of cool because a lot of them had been playing competitive Halo for a long time. So
since back when that's how you did it.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. Like, going back to Halo 2, just screaming at your enemy. Don't care what your opponent hears, because by the time they heard you, they were probably already gone or something like that. It was just a lot of cool. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. That was and Nice Climbers. I love anytime I get a chance to say Nice Climbers. I just love saying the name because it's such a cool name. And so, like, the Nice Climbers' greatest contribution to Scion Esports was Aero.
Yes,
brought him to us, and we keep him. But that event was a lot of fun. For those of you that are listening that heard Aero say they told him that there was only 16 players, there's actually 48 teams at that event. Yeah. We had 48 teams, and it was a huge event. It was so much fun. And I think, Scooter, did you run sound for that event? Did you run sound for the bands?
Which year was that?
The one at the Civic Center where Justin Martindale played, and who else played? Ryan Tyler's band. You might not have been at that.
Dustin's band played.
My first esports event for y'all was Cyphicon Mini. In 2021.
1 month before that. This event was 1 month before that, actually.
Was it?
Yeah. So it's been so much fun just being involved in esports. And Aero, we're glad to have you. We didn't get you here for this Cyphicon, but we didn't give it our best effort this time. We're gonna be back full speed next time, and we're gonna get you down there. We'll get it on your schedule. I want to move into and look, Aero did this disclosure that Halo is not his primary game, and so we're kind of pressing into the service to talk about Halo with us. But I just want to talk for a minute about where kind of y'all think Halo could go from here. Like, where should the franchise go from a storytelling standpoint, and also from a multiplayer standpoint, and also from an esports standpoint? So, like, where do y'all think, if you were in charge of, is it Bonnie Wright, or is that her name? Whoever the studio head of 343 is, if you were that person, where would you take Halo from now? Give me what you think on that.
I think it's too dead to try to save it as it currently exists. I don't think there's any like multiplayer. Infinite, yeah. Well, the scene in general, ACS. I mean, I know they still have an ACS, right? But I'm sure the way I would love to say, oh, they should just release an expansion or a patch or something like that and reinvigorate it. But I'm sure the way studios think, they're already looking for what's next. Surely, right? Surely. So they got to kind of tap into what works and not do what doesn't work and people still love Halo. No one doesn't like Halo. The problem with Halo Infinite, the current scene, is that there was no content to play.
Yeah.
It ran out of stuff to do, and so. But you can't go now and give people stuff to do and expect them all to flock back to it. So the damage is done. They just have to realize they did a whole lot right. I mean, and the what's the name of the engine? Slipspace engine?
Slipspace engine.
I thought it was great. I mean, I thought redesigning an engine from scratch and having it run well in multiplayer was great. It feels like Halo. They did a lot of stuff right. So I think what they need to do is realize all the stuff they did right and don't try to do too much different, but get better at making a live service game that continues to have content. They can take some hints from the Helldivers developers about having a live service game that continues to be successful ongoing. But that's going to have to be with a new game. I hate to say it, but it's going to have to be with Halo 6 or Halo Infinite 2.
Aero, from a TO standpoint, you do a lot of games. I know League of Legends is kind of your primary game, but you pretty much go run whatever tournament, wherever the money's at, right? So what would you say from an esports standpoint, from the broader esports community? Like, what would 343 need to do? Maybe, like Eric said, it probably might need to be with a new game, but what would they need to do if they're gonna say Halo's gonna be the next game that everybody plays, competitively? What do you think? What would that game need?
I think it's not entirely like dead. It's almost on par. It might be a little bit underneath like Call of Duty and everything like that. But I don't see too much FPS competitive scenes out there in general that are massive. The big thing right now that's like out there right now is like you've got a lot of like the tactical shooters such as like the CSGOs, the Valorants, that kind of stuff that's kind of taking off now, at least with like the release of like the Valorant doing their stuff from Riot. And then you have the MOBA scene with League of Legends being as big as it is. But in terms of Halo, what I think they need to do is the biggest thing, kind of what Eric said, if you view the scene as dead, scratch it. And if you want Halo to be the game, you still scratch it. And you kind of have to start over from that kind of aspect. You're not going to get everyone to flock back. Your idea needs to be to try to grab the new players out there. And if you can get any of the old players to come back, that's great. But I'm not saying I'm in support of just scrap the entire idea, because there's so much lore, there's so much story that goes with it that you don't want to lose, but revamp it, bring it back, but you have to give it something new. And as far as what that new thing is, I don't know, not a game developer, but as far as a TO standpoint, just from games that I've seen die and then try to come back, usually a big revamp is something that's usually needed.
Scooter, as a guy that has really great memories of playing Halo back in the day,
right,
but hasn't been as involved lately,
right?
What's going to take to bring you back?
Split screen firefight was like my favorite thing. I liked the team aspect. I loved the sitting right next to the guy that you're playing with.
Did they finally get split screen in Halo Infinite?
I think they did not.
Okay.
They said they were going to, and then they finally said, we said we were going to, but we're not going to. They ended up
still not in it.
They knew it was important, and they said, hey, we're not doing split screen co-op. Couch co-op was big, and I'm glad. So I think I'm gonna maybe have a little bit better feel for you guys' trivia knowledge, because all the stuff y'all are saying is like, oh, there's a trivia question about that. Oh, there's a trivia question about that. So we may hit some of that. Hit some of those. So one thing I didn't hear from any of y'all, Battle Royale.
Well, like Aero said, do something different. We kind of said, kind of all agreed, well, you got to have this, basically start over and not scrap everything, but start over from a PR perspective and give people something to come back to that's not just a patch,
yeah.
The new season. And really, honestly, like Blizzard tried just calling their game Overwatch 2. That wasn't to me, that was even almost not even, they weren't even trying, right? That'd be like if they just call Halo Infinite 2.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would work. Look, and some people don't think you should have a battle royale because it's like not Halo. But if that's what it takes to get people to come play the game, I'm all for it. I would love to play a Halo Battle Royale where you're ODSTs. We're basically doing it. It's just called Helldivers.
It's just called Helldivers.
It's not a Battle Royale, but we're playing another game where you're basically ODSTs dropping into a planet and shooting people. It's like...
It's almost like you read my mind, making the transition to Helldivers there. But as we make this move, Ren Spider says there is split screen co-op on the next gen consoles.
Okay, so they did finally get it, but it launched well without it.
So look, if you're watching us, here every week we do a segment on Helldivers, and what you're seeing could easily be Helldivers.
Right, but it's not.
It's the Delta Halo drop scene from Halo 2, where they followed. Was it Truth? Is it Prophet? Is it Grant? Which one is it that bombs you, Mombasa? Anyway, goes off, leaves the Battle of Mombasa, goes off into the slipspace portal. Amberclad follows him. They get there. They say, "Whoa, there's a Halo ring," and the captain says, "Y'all get down there." And Chief jumps in with 6 or 8 ODSTs, and they drop onto the Halo. And I was watching that intro, and it's like, this could be the intro to Helldivers. And I literally put it with the Helldivers music, and it's like, it's the same game. So first question, Aero, do you play Helldivers? Scooter, do you play Helldivers?
I do not, but it sounds like a great game.
Aero, you haven't either?
No, I haven't yet.
All right, okay. Well, so the only thing I wanted to bring up is I just wanted to use this as an excuse to kind of meld our previous scene with today's Halo episode. And that's why I thought, man, ODSTs are so much like Helldivers. It's almost like they missed the chance. It's almost like 343 missed the chance to hire that developer and say, make that our game.
Yep. Oh, if y'all don't, so what Helldivers are is they're an ODST from Halo is not as powerful as a Spartan. They're kind of like extremely advanced soldiers, but they're not invincible. They don't have shields. If they get shot, they die, and they're kind of expendable, which is the way ODSTs are. And you have a spaceship that's orbiting the planet, and you drop down in this pod, and you land on the pod, and then you get there, you come out with your gun, you start shooting bugs. Bugs or robots.
And you have a vendetta against Spartans, is what I remember.
If you're an ODST.
There is some resentment. There is some resentment between the ODST, because before the Spartans, the ODSTs were the elite. They were the recon Marines or the Special Forces. They were that, and they kind of still are, but now there's this new class of more elite super soldiers, and there is some resentment, and there's some resentment and some competition between the divisions.
But they absolutely, if 343 had known how big of a hit Helldivers was going to be, they could have taken 3 months and skinned Helldivers to be a war during the Covenant War, in the Milky Way galaxy during the Covenant War, and you play as ODSTs and you're fighting the Covenant. They could have skinned that in 3 months, and it'd have been a smash hit. They're so similar already.
Yeah. All right, so that's a great that just fits so well with what we were already going to talk about this week, which was that segment, that Helldiver segment. I just said, man, we got to talk about ODSTs for just a couple minutes. So before we go on to trivia, which is going to be a lot of fun, we have the mailbag, and we had one really good question. We really only have one question, but it's a great one. So let me see if I can read it in his own words. 513 Discord question. So our friend Renspider asks, there was a point where Scion was semi-skeptical on having esports teams represent the brand, and I'd like to know what pushed y'all to make the decision to pick up a Halo roster and also to keep them on, as well as it kind of seemed to have originally been planned to be a single event run. So if Aero and Scooter don't mind me and Eric taking this question, I'm going to split it into two parts. Eric, I want you to take the first part, which is y'all were originally kind of skeptical about having an esports team represent the brand. Talk about that a little bit.
So I wouldn't say we were skeptical about having an esports team represent the brand. It was more like we weren't focused on going out and trying to make a name for ourselves publicly. And so, like, he's right. That wasn't something we were big on. But it was more like when we were starting, it didn't quite have a life of its own yet, and it was more focused on just an advertising effort for Lake Charles Toyota. And so it needed to be a lot more like, what can we do that will draw people to our dealership or to our events? What's going to draw people to our events? And sending teams out with our name on it didn't really fit that a whole lot. At the time, early on in Scion Esports' life, exposure for itself was not particularly beneficial. It had to be exposure for our money-making operation, which is Lake Charles Toyota.
Yeah.
So that kind of Scion Esports got a little bit healthier as far as it managed to eke out a budget at Toyota, and we got a little bit more interested in getting some recognition for the brand Scion Esports, and that's when we started moving more towards sponsoring some players.
Yeah. I think that the synergy with this team has been it's very expensive to send teams to live esports events. You can put some people on online events, but if you're sending people to in-person events, it's very expensive. And we did it with Overwatch, and we did it with Halo and Halo 5, but we couldn't devote that much resources to it. What's changed that is really like you said, like Ren said, is it seemed like this was going to be a one-time thing. And honestly, we hit our Halo Infinite tournament at the absolute peak of Halo Infinite. It was perfect timing. It was super hot. Everybody was playing it. Hundreds of people, 48 teams, and then it kind of fell off after that. And so the reason that I put together this Halo team, and in fact I made a lot of video branding about it, that's the kind of theme was like Spartans never die, and the whole idea behind this Halo team was it was like one last ditch effort to go make something happen in HCS. And I really thought it was going to be a one and done thing. We were going to send them to Fort Worth. We were going to go back and kind of relive the glory days and visit with Why Not and Clutch at the casting desk and go over there with the Scion logo. It was going to be a lot of fun, but it was kind of going to be a one-time thing. In fact, we were even going to go. I had tickets. We ended up not going because we had our families taking us all different directions. But I had tickets to Fort Worth for me and Eric and a couple of our friends. But we ended up not making the trip. But our guys went, and they had a good time. It wasn't a very good showing. They ended up losing out pretty quick in that one. But then they contacted me back and said, "Hey, we had a great time. We played well, but we just didn't do all. We just weren't able to make it quite happen." And they said, "If you just pay for our pass, will you? If we pay for everything else, will you just pay for our pass?" So they said, "We're not asking for lodging. We're not asking for travel. We're going to go. We'll wear your jerseys if you'll just pay for our team pass." So all of a sudden, these passionate Halo players made it affordable for us to do it. So I kind of wanted to pat them on the back a little bit, because those guys, they're bearing the weight of the team through their own passion for Halo. So that's kind of it. To answer the second part of Ren's question of what made us decide to keep it going, is those guys said, "Man, if you just give us a little bit, we just need a little bit. We don't need every dollar paid. We don't need you to give us this and this and this. We just need a little bit of help," and it worked out great. So they're doing well. They've like Aero gave us, when you were taking the phone call here, Aero gave us a little recap, and they're really doing well. They're right on the edge of right on the edge of greatness, and they're getting some quality wins, and so it's really been fun to watch them. And it's been a testament to their commitment to the Halo esports scene as much, if not more so, than it is ours. That's allowed us to stay partners with them. So, if anybody has any parting thoughts before we move on to trivia, now's the time. No, all right. Well, you know what to do, Aero. I didn't tell you this, but you're going to need to get you some type of writing device if you want to participate.
Oh yeah,
there you go. Yeah,
all
right. So I know Lewis is going to be on here. We'll get him on in a few weeks, and he said he's already got his whiteboard ready. The way this works is I'm going to ask a question.
Is the music supposed to be playing?
Supposed to be.
There it goes.
There it is.
I'm going to ask a question. The way this works is it's going to be Aero versus Scooter versus Eric versus the Discord. So if you're in the Discord or the Twitch chat and you know the answer, you can chime in and get the answer. And if you get it right, and none of these other guys get it right, then we'll slap you some Scion Esports Scion Esports swag. So we're gonna bring up the Founders Trivia. I still have Eric and Dustin's picture there. We didn't talk about Dustin much, but he's actually off in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
He's playing a D&D game.
Ooh,
he's
sweet.
playing a D&D game where the Dungeon Master is sick of bards. So he's rolling a cleric that focuses on entertainment and singing, and he's basically making a bard character as a cleric to troll the Dungeon Master, who is his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, so we'll get a recap of that. We'll make sure he recounts that whole story for us next time. So on the Wheel of Destiny tonight, we have a few. They're all Halo related categories. So we have kind of the elements of a Halo game, which is the campaign, the multiplayer, and the esports scene, and then we have lore. And then we have IRL, which is in real life. It's like real world. Things about authors or composers or whatever. And then non-game, what that means is books, comic books, movies. There's no way to fit. I had to make it in just a small little word. So and then wild card is we're gonna take turns picking a category. Okay. So first it'll be Eric, then it'll be Scooter, then it'll be Aero. So we're gonna spin this wheel while I pull up I'm having to read these off my phone. That's kind of hard, but I think I can make it work. So the first question is going to be a...
Oh
man,
God.
It's right on the edge.
It's wild. Okay.
It's right on the edge of this wild card.
And it's me picking?
So right off the bat, Eric gets to pick.
It wanted, the Wheel of Destiny wanted it to be lore.
Wheel of Destiny really wanted lore, so we'll go with lore question. Okay, all right. So, what African city is closest to the location of the Forerunner portal from Earth to the Ark, and therefore often lends its name to the portal as well? The simple way of asking that question is, what is the portal called in Halo 3? They call it the Excision at, and then the city's name.
I don't think this is correct.
No, okay, so, all right, so did anybody in Discord get it?
I'm going to write it anyway.
I said
This is insanely
It's the same thing I heard.
All right, so, so Ren Spider said New Mombasa,
I'm
Eric said New Mombasa.
I'm going to know when I hear it.
Yeah, you're going to hear it. Eric said New Mombasa.
I mean, it's in
Scooter
Africa,
said
though,
New
right?
Mombasa, yeah. So it's actually, New Mombasa is the mega city.
Yeah.
Right.
And then this little town, it's called Voy.
Void.
I
did know that.
And it's a little town that the portal is called the Portal of Void. Yeah, here's your eraser.
I didn't know. I knew I was going to know it when I heard it, and I
It's a
did.
little bit too hard.
No, that was just the right difficulty.
Just
the right difficulty.
Just the right difficulty.
We should have known that if we were.
I
know, and
I
a lot
should
of
have
people
just played
look.
through
A
the
lot of
games
people
in preparation for the podcast.
What's that?
I said I should have just played through the games,
yeah.
or at least watched through the games.
Yeah. So I don't. The Discord. I mean, the Twitch chat. I'm not looking at Discord, but the Twitch chat said they all said New Mombasa too. So that was a great answer. And it's not far. I think it's like, I don't know, 100 miles from New Mombasa or something like that. So, all right, let's spin the Wheel of Destiny. Esports. All right, esports question. All right, let me scroll down here. What are the names of the twin brothers who were the core players on the legendary MLG ACS team Final Boss?
I know that,
and are widely considered to be among the best Halo players ever. You don't have to have their real names.
I mean,
their gamer tag names.
I think I know one of them. But I have Ogre.
All right, I'm going to give you credit for that because the answer is the Ogre twins.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's two guys, Dan and Tom Ryan.
Dan. I knew the real name. I couldn't even think of the.
You knew their real names?
I knew Dan for some reason.
You knew Dan Ryan? Yeah. So Eric
close.
gets that one, and so does the Discord. Ren Spider did get that one. Eric got his way into it by trusting his gut. And non-game. So this is going to be probably Eric's question. This is probably going to be Eric's question. So, which live-action miniseries served as an origin story for Spartan 4 Oni operative Jameson Locke? What was the name of the web series?
I'm not gonna know it.
It came out before Halo 5. It was a really good web series.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to get this. I'm gonna know it when I hear it.
You're gonna know it as soon as you hear it.
Yeah.
It was the story was
Wait. Is this the one you said earlier?
No, that was from Halo 4. That was the origin story for.
And what was that one called?
Lasky. That one was called Forward into Dawn.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
On this one,
I remember it. I'm not gonna get it.
They have the Let Go Low Swarms. They're on the Alpha Shard. They're on the piece of.
Let's don't waste time because I'm not gonna get it.
All right. Does anybody in Discord?
That's a great question.
Jameson Locke's origin story.
Yeah, it's a great question, but I don't remember it.
It was in a show called Halo Nightfall.
Nightfall. That's right. I think I did watch that one.
Yep, I'm blanking and I hate myself. I know this. That's right. Spider. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Nightfall. That's a good
question. Guys. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best to write trivia questions. Y'all can get the answer. It's hard to write trivia because if you make it too easy, it's boring.
Yeah.
And if you make it too hard, it's boring.
No, these are good. These are good difficulty levels.
Okay, wild card.
Let Scooter pick campaign, and it has to be Halo 1, 2, or 3.
Multiplayer.
Or multiplayer. There you go.
Okay, all right. Halo. Scooter gets to pick because it's a wild card, and he picks multiplayer. And the question is, what nearly symmetrical, iconic multiplayer map from Halo Combat Evolved has been officially and unofficially re-released more than any other map in the Halo franchise and was almost always the setting of the Red versus Blue Machinima series? I'm sure you can see it. It's got the two little bases, like steel, structured bases in on either side. It's almost symmetrical. You can, and in fact, the common name is from the Halo Combat Evolved name. But if you guess any of the other ones that it was remade into,
I have a guess.
I'll give you what. Let's see. What is Aero is given an answer. Can anybody read it?
Sandbox.
Sandbox? No, it was called Blood Gulch.
Blood
Gulch.
Okay. Is it a big canyon?
It is a big canyon.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I can see it in my head.
It's a long canyon with two bases on either side.
It's got like a creek that runs down it, right?
It's called Blood Gulch.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I thought it was called Canyon. I don't know. I'm retarded.
All right.
That's a good question. These are good questions.
I'm trying to make it fun. Okay. Here we go on a campaign-related question. So, Which villain of Halo 2 also appears in prequel form as the leader of the Covenant forces in the first Halo Wars game? So who's a villain in Halo Wars 1 and Halo 2? Pretty main villain in Halo 2. Scooter, bad guy in Halo 2, man. You got to get it.
I know. I'm trying to remember because I was just talking about.
Guster Posey guesses one wrong answer and one partially correct answer.
I have it.
Then I'm going to say, Posey, you got to be more correct than that. All right, so let's see what y'all got. Scooter's still right.
That's what I wrote the first time. He wrote the main brute guy. Main brute. That's what I wrote the first time.
All right. Are you writing Tartarus?
Yeah, okay.
Main brute with awesome hammer.
It's Tartarus. Okay. I knew that one.
Tartarus is not the correct answer.
What?
Tartarus is the main bad guy, and he's the final boss of Halo 2.
Right.
But he's not this particular bad guy. The correct answer is the High Prophet of Regret.
Oh, well, you know what? I didn't even listen to the part.
The real question is, do you know about Halo Wars 1? Halo War, the Prophet of Regret is the bad guy.
You're right.
The Battle of Harvest.
No, that's a good question. It's kind of a trick question.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, boys.
That was definitely well within the not boring category where it was
just you
hard enough, but yeah.
All right, we'll keep doing this till y'all get bored of it.
A couple more at least. A couple more.
Okay, campaign again. All right. Campaign question. Okay. This one's like almost too easy. Even Scooter should be able to get this one.
Sweet. That's what I need.
What are the famous last words spoken by Master Chief at the end of Halo 3? Aero, do you know this? It's like the most famous quote from Halo 3. Scooter, do you know it?
As soon as it's said, maybe.
All right, I know the Discord.
I have a guess.
All right, show me your answer. You got it.
I don't even have a guess.
Eric says, "Wake me when you need me." That is
actually
correct.
I said, "Wake me when you need me."
Wake me when you need me.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I vividly remember that
last
in my brain
words. And they could have been last words if you didn't beat it on Legendary. If you beat it on Legendary, you saw the back half of the forward on
Esports
drifting towards Requiem. What team won the grand prize at the first ever Scion Esports event to feature a Halo game? This is just an Eric question.
Okay. Okay. It was Bean, right?
It was Bean.
Okay. But that's not the team name.
That's not the team
name. Was the team name the Mamas and the Papas?
Nope, not the Mamas and Papas. The Mamas and Papas was another awesome team name, but it was not. It was Beansy's team and those boys from DeQuincy putting Team Wombat in their place with Will Lemons.
It wasn't Team Wombat at the time, though. It was Team Combat with a K.
Combat at the time. Combat with a K, yeah. All right. So the answer to that question...
No worries.
Is no worries.
No worries.
Beansy, we still love you because Eric remembered the team name.
No worries.
Beansy, I don't know if he's listening or not, but he did like the share on Instagram. All right, multiplayer question.
I've got hope.
What was the last Halo game to feature couch co-op, split screen, and campaign and multiplayer modes?
Ooh.
And it was 4-player couch co-op. It was the good stuff.
I have a guess.
Okay. What is Aero putting up? Eric's got Halo 5. Scooter's got Halo 2.
I had Halo 4.
Aero's got Halo 4. Halo 4 is correct. Guster Posey and Aero got it correct. It was Halo 4. Yep.
So I guessed Halo 5 because there's such a big stink about it not having it in Infinite. I don't remember there being a stink about not having it in Halo 5. Well, I think it
became a stink in Infinite, and because of the stink in Infinite, they said give it to us. I mean, it was a stink in Halo 5.
Okay.
Because by then everybody has, you just play online. Online was how you played multiplayer. And they're like, you don't need to play couch co-op. And they were like, yes, we do. We want to play couch co-op. So then they said, we're going to give it back to you in Infinite. Promise we're going to give it to you in Infinite. Promise we're going to give it to you in Infinite. Until they said, oh, hey, guys.
No,
remember that couch co-op thing? We're not giving it to you. But Ren says that they did eventually do it.
And I know I'm not the only one that's amazed at how we played couch co-op and played split screen on such tiny TVs back in the day.
First of all, you're on like a 23-inch CRT and it's split up 4 ways.
And you're just looking at this little bitty screen.
Yep.
Wait, Guster Posey says Reach had 4-player too. But Reach was before. Reach was before
Halo 4.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, Halo 4 was after Reach, yeah. Okay, what malevolent entity was later revealed to have been the last remnant of the precursors and whose consciousness eventually became known as the Gravemind in the modern era?
Oh.
You really probably don't know this if you haven't read at least some of the books.
See, but in preparation for this, I talked a bunch of Halo with both my brother and my friend Fish, and I feel like we talked about this.
Read the question again?
What malevolent entity
was later revealed what it's called
to have been the last remnant of the precursors and whose consciousness eventually became known as the Grave Mind in the modern era?
Are we allowed to phone a friend?
No.
No.
I think I mean, I know exactly who it is. I'm just trying to remember if I have the right name to refer to him.
All right, Eric's the only one writing anything down. So what you got, Eric? The primordial is correct. Eric gets that one correct.
Yep.
The primordial. Okay, how many more of these do y'all want to do?
Talk about that in preparation for this.
Well, you want to do like 3 more questions? All
Three
right.
more.
Sudden death.
Do we have a score? What's the score?
Score is Eric 4, Aero 1, Discord 3.
Scooter 9.
Scooter 0.
Lore. What is the collective nickname of the team of Gamma Company Spartan 3s led by Veda Lopez, whose 3 novels and a short story bounce back and forth between the plots of several Halo games?
I'm going to get this.
Most notably,
I know,
Halo
I know.
Wars 2 and Halo Infinite.
I have a guess. Maybe.
Veda Lopez, and it's Ash and Mark.
You're not going to have a guess. This is a book. It's from a
Ash,
book.
Mark, and Livia.
Anybody have a guess?
Anybody got a guess? Nope.
I have a guess.
Discord, you got a guess? Nope. Eric gets it correct. The ferrets. It's 5 for Eric.
Ferrets, that's awesome.
Ferrets is the answer to that question. The really cool thing, the reason I put that in there is because their story really weaves back and forth a lot between Halo 5 and Halo Infinite and Halo Wars 2. It's really, I just thought maybe some people might have read that in between the lead up to those games.
Non-game.
Congratulations, you got non-game. All right, we haven't got a non-game.
Scooter's not going to have a chance on this one, right?
No.
Or both.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. This one's not as hard as it might seem.
Okay.
Who was the composer responsible for the famous main theme introduced in Halo Combat Evolved? Who wrote the monks chanting? Interesting factoid. He's running for United States Congress in Arizona. I think Arizona or Nevada, one of those two. Running for United States Congress as a family values Trump MAGA Republican. Which is weird coming out of Hollywood. He has a career as a composer for whatever, and
It's definitely not what you normally think of a composer.
So he's running for Congress, and he is also the composer of the most famous. Eric puts Martin O'Donnell. That is correct. Eric is destroying tonight's trivia. Aero, did you get it? Did you know that one?
No.
That's all right. No.
So the other one is Salvatore.
Michael Salvatore,
And I was going to guess that until you said the thing about him running for Congress. I remember that story.
Yeah, and they are both credited as. I know they're both credited as the composers on the Halo 2 soundtrack. Just him, he specifically is credited kind of as the creator of that theme. The one that first put it down on a MIDI keyboard is allegedly multiplayer. Okay, that'll be fun.
I got hope again.
Hope for Scooter.
What is the largest number of players that can play in a multiplayer match in all 3 of the original Halo games? Most people you can load into one lobby.
Like, did they have big team? That's what I'm trying. That's the question, basically?
Question basically is what's the biggest game mode? Because whatever game you create in Forge or whatever, it's going to have the same number of players as the biggest official game mode.
In
Twitch
all
chat already
3
got it
of
right.
the first games?
Yeah, it just so happens to be the same number. Aero gets it right. Put it away, Aero, so Scooter and Eric don't cheat. I see you got it right. Aero got it right. All right, Scooter has an answer
That's a 4v4,
that is
8.
also correct.
8.
Everybody gets it right except Eric. The answer is 16.
Okay, well, so there was a big team.
There was a big team. So
I just didn't think there
Aero
would be.
gets that one. Scooter, here's the deal, though. Now, that question is what it took to get Scooter on the board.
Yeah. See, I did not think that Halo 1 would have had big team.
Yep.
Halo 1 had 8v8.
I don't remember, but according to the internet, it did. Okay, so guys, thanks so much for coming. Scooter, it's been a blast having you here talking about Halo. Thanks again for saving us from that crazy drunk guy at Cyphercon and introducing us to your love for the Halo franchise. For those of y'all who don't know, the way we found out that Scooter loves Halo is there was this really crazy, really drunk
incredibly
guy.
drunk.
Only guy there asking us question after question, barely could even string a sentence together, asking us all this stuff about Dynasty Warriors, and we were just the most awkward, cringy moment.
Muted his microphone and then was like, hey, bud, can I ask a couple of questions? And started asking literally any Halo-related question. Well, video game in general, but Halo is the only thing I can really ask questions on.
True hero of esports there, Scooter Michelli, saving the day for Scion Esports. Aero, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast tonight. Thanks so much for helping us test the technicalities of promoting someone in. And you did a great job, and we definitely will fly you down here every chance we get because we love having you on our team. All right?
Thanks.
And as always, the rest of you guys, thank you all for buying cars from Lake Charles Toyota. Thank you all for coming to Scion Esports events. And thank you all for watching the Founders Podcast.